Welcome in to Bears Weekly, powered by IGS Energy, a Chicago Bears network production. Bears Weekly is brought to you by Advocate Healthcare, Athletico Physical Therapy, CDW, Connie's Pizza, IGS Energy, and Miller Lite. Here are your hosts, Jeff Joniak, a.k.a. the Mayor of Bearsville, and his sidekick, Tom the Surfmaster Thayer.
A new Bears team with new ideas, a new culture, and a focus on winning and winning now. Ready to roll out for 2025, and we take a deep dive on the roster to get a feel for the Bears and where they're headed under head coach Ben Johnson. This is Bears Weekly on ESPN 1000 and the Chicago Bears Radio Network, a special edition at 11 a.m. here on Thursday with Super Bowl winning Bears guard Tom Thayer. I'm Jeff Joniak. Coming up in the program, we visit with wide receiver Olamide Zaccheaus. We also hear from defensive lineman Gervon Dexter, and Joe Thuney has some thoughts as well as he gets ready for his first game as a Chicago Bear. Want to thank our producers, Dan Barilli, Jordan Tradeup, and Katie Fox, and our producer, Hannah Lamada, in the ESPN studios, and the executive producer of the Bears Radio Network is Eric Ostrowski. Tom, good morning, by the way. Good morning. A rare morning edition of Bears Weekly. So getting the cobwebs out and ready to roll. Just some overall thoughts from you. I'm sure you had a pretty good idea in your mind who was going to make this roster. I don't think there were many major surprises. 7 new players on the defensive side, 14 on the offensive side. So that's where the bulk of it has changed. So you got a returning defense with a lot of starters and with some impactful guys up front, and an offense that is completely new, directed by Ben Johnson.
Right. And, to me, I really have a new appreciation for the coaching staff that Ben Johnson brought aboard, and their no-nonsense approach to the evaluation and the needs of this football team to put the best product out there starting week 1. The whole non-nonsense approach of the training camp, the physical effort that these guys put in, and Ben Johnson never made it comfortable for anybody. So every one of these guys that had the experience to go through training camp are better players at the end of training camp than they were before it. And so I just love the fact that I think this roster and these guys are going to be ready to go week 1. This is not an approach that we're going to say, oh, they didn't hit anybody for the entirety of training camp, so they're not going to be ready week 1. This is going to be a team that's physically and mentally ready to go week 1. And I like the decisions they made at the final cuts. There wasn't any surprises or egregious losses there. So let's roll and get ready for Minnesota, and that's what I want to see the Bears do.
You touched on something about getting ready with the physicality. I think it'll help all 3 phases in that regard. Do you suspect tackling will be good on Jump Street?
Yes. And, that was one of my biggest concerns. And, the only guy I have concern from is tackling week 1 is Jalen Johnson. But he hasn't really played in training camp, but he's an experienced veteran, and he knows what you have to do in order to be a good tackler. And he still has 5 or 6 practices left to go before the regular season if he is ready to go week 1. But I think the interior, the defensive linemen, the linebackers, the backup linebackers, the safeties, everybody is going to be ready to go fundamentally, and I think that's really important in the NFL nowadays. One
of the leaders on this team by virtue of what he's done in his career, one of the premier players in football, let alone the offensive line, Joe Thuney, a highly decorated player coming by way of North Carolina State to a 3rd-round pick to the New England Patriots to a Kansas City Chief in free agency and dealt to the Bears. He has been everything that the Bears thought he would be and more. Let's listen in. He was at the podium on Wednesday to discuss where this team is at, what he's learned, and are there any concerns on that offensive line with the uncertainty at left tackle and other topics. Here's Joe Thuney.
All the guys out there at left tackle have been doing a great job, whether it's weight room, locker room, meeting room, they're all working so hard, working endlessly. And as an offensive line, we're just always working to try and get better. And, it's a never-ending process. And anyone they go with is great. And just want to, do what I can.
What have you gotten to know just about Ben and his coaching style and how he's set you guys up for the season?
He's such a passionate guy, so much energy, so much enthusiasm for this game. And he's so smart about this game. And he communicates so well of what he wants us to accomplish and how he wants us to approach certain plays. And, it's been great just learning, day by day in this camp, just the more details of how to execute better. And, it's never ending, and we're always trying to get better and better. But yeah, he's been so, positive, and he's just been great.
He's been standing with you guys on the sidelines. You guys let him in the club?
Yeah, it's a compliment. I mean, he wants to come hang out with the O-line. That's great. But no, I mean, we love him, and he's a great guy. And, so it's always great to talk football with him, talk anything with him, really. And, but yeah, it's fun to talk ball.
Joe, do you feel like you're part of the group that is helping develop Caleb, just from the knowledge that you come in with from such a long career and having played with great quarterbacks?
Yeah, I mean, I try to be a resource for, whatever, really, and talk about, times I've had in the league and who I've played with and things like that. But, I just, try and stay in my lane and do the best job I can at O-line. But yeah, I mean, I think it's great, the back and forth and growing together and growing under this offense. And, I'll do whatever I can, to help him or the O-line or anything, really.
Joe, how comfortable are you in the role of the veteran? Have you had younger O-linemen come up to you and ask you about different moments in your career? And is that something you like talking about? Is that something that's awkward? How does that go?
No, it's great. I mean, these camp days, we have so much time, in the building. We're here for a long time. So you talk about anything and everything. And, it's been great. I think guys in the O-line room, we all just, everyone loves football. We all love talking ball and, things we've seen. And the guys, the other guys in the O-line room, they have great stories too and great experiences too. So it's a great back and forth. And I'm happy to be part of the room.
What is the process like when you go from over these 2 weeks, you're in camp, they're throwing a lot at you. Now you have an opponent coming up. The playbook's maybe a little bit smaller. But what is that like for you as a player in an offense, and what's your sort of curiosity to see Ben lead you guys through that?
Yeah, I mean, for camp, you're blocking, the same guys, except for of course the joint practices. But you're blocking the same D line for day after day after day, and so. It just changes, the film study of, and then just seeing a new defense, so, they'll have to, delve into that when the time comes. And then, yeah, it's just more specific planning for, an actual opponent, not, your teammates. So, it's exciting, it means that the season's here and week 1's coming up. And, so a lot of excitement.
John was saying Ben was throwing a lot at you guys this camp. How is this offense just feeling as a whole as now you get ready for game week next week?
Yeah, I felt like it was a great camp. Just growing together, mastering the offense together. Speaking the language with the calls, together, and everyone being on the same page and seeing the game the same way. And so yeah, I think it's going really well. But there's always everyone's striving for improvement all the time. And
you kind of feel like you're where you need to be. I mean, obviously there's always room for improvement, but do you guys feel ready?
I just take it one day at a time, and I think we had a great day today, and kind of just be where our feet are, and focus on just today, and that's kind of what we're doing.
He's an understated guy. He's going to keep it real. Super smart, and Joe Thuney gets it. He knows what it takes to win, and I'm sure guys have come to him and said, "Hey, how'd you do this?" There's just some unbelievable math in his career. 21 career playoff games. He's approaching 10,000 snaps in his NFL life. I think Joe Thuney is an ideal leader for that offensive line, Tom, as is Grady Jarrett on the defensive side of the ball.
All right, 2 things. If Joe Thuney never visited the podium again, he wouldn't care.
Yeah,
he's a really soft-spoken guy that doesn't have a lot of run-on type of answers that just people want to hear. He's the type of guy that his experience and success have been earned because fundamentally he is one of the best players I've ever seen. And I think when you get the experience that Joe Thuney has been through, whether it's the regular season or the postseason, a lot of that is reliable information, relatable information to the center or to the offensive tackle that he's playing next to. I've really grown an appreciation for Joe throughout watching training camp that I never knew that I could gain so quickly. But I played the position. I know what it takes. I know the fundamentals behind the success of the position. And Joe has exceeded everything that I actually thought he would be.
And give me more specifics.
So to play the position successfully, you got to be able to have this aggressiveness, but a certain amount of calmness. And he reminds me a lot of of a guy like Jay Hilgenberg, because Jay is a 7-time consecutive Pro Bowler. He should be in the Hall of Fame, but he played the game at the ability and the understanding where he knew his body position, he knew his hand placement, he knew how to be successful depending upon the type of talent that he was up against. And when Joe goes out there and he shows the fundamentals of the position early on in training camp, when he was only going against the Bears, it was something that I admired so much because he did things so perfectly. He was never off balance. His hands were never out of position. His head was never out over his feet where he got off balance. And then, then here comes the Miami Dolphins, and then here comes the Buffalo Bills. He put that same type of technical ability on display against other guys that were coming in there, and he was practicing against today, and then the Bears played against him even though Joe didn't play. So the fundamental talent of a guy like Joe Thuney is something that every single offensive lineman on that in that meeting room can watch when he's on tape, because it's the way you're supposed to do it and the way you're supposed to do it perfectly.
Go check out how he played in Super Bowl in 2019. Every snap against Aaron Donald neutralized what was the Defensive Player of the Year from the LA Rams, Aaron Donald, in that game. All right, we're going to take a break. When we come back, Olamide Zaccheaus, another impactful signing by the Chicago Bears in this year's free agent period. He's next on Bears Weekly on ESPN 1000 of the Bears Radio Network.
This is Bears Weekly with the voice of the Bears for 24 years, Jeff Joniak on the Bears Radio Network.
This segment of Bears Weekly is brought to you by IGS Energy. I had a chance to sit down with Bears veteran wide receiver Olamide Zaccheaus. Olamide, thank you so much for joining us. I'm going to start right with a quote I read about you. I don't know who wrote it. I don't know. I can't remember, but I wrote it down a while ago. Okay. Olamide's not just fast. He's fearless. He'll take a hit, make the catch, and get right back up. That's the kind of player you build a team around. Could you find any higher praise than that right there?
Yeah, who said that?
I don't know.
We need to find out.
I don't know. It might have been a scout telling a reporter at some point in your career, but does that encapsulate you to a team?
I feel like it does. It's kind of just exactly what you said. I just pride myself on being exactly that. Like, just doing whatever I got to do, make a play for the team, and just being durable, being available.
Is the fearless part more challenging than I would even garner to guess? Because football players in general say, hey, man, I play with no fear, but is fearless maybe the most important part of that?
Yeah, I feel like at least for me, it's something that you have to grow into a little bit. And, the more experience you get, the easier it is to be a little bit fearless. You're just thinking less, so you just go out there and play. Just play as fast as possible and kind of know what to expect. You might get, certain looks that you haven't seen, but for the most part, you're just out there playing fast and, the game kind of slows down.
That whole quote, though, it just, and I wrote this down many, many weeks ago before I got to see you up close and personal. I've called games you played in, but watching you, it's the reliability, the dependability of where you're supposed to be, when you're supposed to be there, a guy you can count on. It's showing in practice every day. And in your relationship with Caleb Williams as well. He's mentioned it, that you guys are boys, you get on and off the field. So I don't think you can get any better than that statement, right? Because if quarterbacks feel you, they're going to find you.
Right.
Has that been your experience?
Most definitely. And I understand that the communication on and off the field is very important. And then obviously just getting the reps, during the game and practice, after practice. It's so important. And it's just about making sure the quarterback's comfortable. And then just, like you said, just being in the right spot at the right time. And then just having the conversations, man. Like, the quarterback has a lot of responsibility and just try to make it as easy as possible for him.
Is there a challenge in being on a different team for consecutive years, the knowledge that you have to forget, retain some of it, but it's going to sound different, it's going to look different wherever you go. Has that been a challenge, or has that been a reward for you in some respects?
I would say it's been a challenge. Each year, different offense. But at the end of the day, it's still football. Once you learn the terminology and where you're supposed to line up and, how they kind of want to see things, just go out there and play. But it's definitely a challenge, getting those little details right. And, I'm still learning little things about this offense that I can, hold in on and tighten up on. But it's I embrace it, though. I embrace it. I feel like I'm confident in how quickly I'm able to pick up on those little things, and then just like you said, just be a dependable, reliable, source.
NFL analysts are often quick, and reporters and people who cover the game in a deep level to categorize everybody, right? Mm-hmm. You got one. This one I do know who wrote it. Okay. His name is Bill Barnwell. He works for ESPN. He's a longtime NFL person, but he came up with the best, that he calls you the best fourth receiver in the NFL, and one of the top luxury players in the NFL. Now, I know no one wants to hear the pecking order or whatnot, but having a luxury player also speaks to somebody who's underrated and also someone who's going to deliver when they get the opportunity. So it's interesting how people try to categorize everybody, but I don't know how you take that statement because, number one, you made such a major impression here. You're basically a starter.
Personally, I view myself a lot higher than what anybody else could label me, and anything else is just outside noise to me. So I don't really buy into any of the starter or anything like that. I know how I view myself, and how I view myself is based on how I prepare. My preparation, day in, day out, routine, watching film, getting my catches in, just doing everything I'm supposed to do to be able to go out there and perform at a high level. So that's where I draw my view of myself from, and everything else, like I said, is just outside noise.
Olamide is of Yoruba origin, means my wealth has arrived. A powerful reflection of hope and legacy. It's not just financial, obviously. It's much more than that. Can you take me deeper into that meaning? And are you glad you got that given first name?
Yeah, it's actually funny because growing up, I didn't necessarily love my name.
Okay.
But my mom, she the loose translation is a blessing has come. So as I gotten older, I've just really embraced that, and I love my name, and I'm very grateful that my parents gave me that name, and it's just I just feel like it's so fitting for who I am, and people might not even realize it, but I feel like I've been a blessing to a lot of people, not only just in football but off the field as well, and I just
what respects?
Just just being there for people. I feel like I do a lot for the people that I care about, and just being a reliable source on and off the field, whether it be emotionally, all the different aspects of life.
So interesting, the coaches say, hey, take what we learn in the meeting room, take it to the practice field, and take the practice field to Sunday. You're living it on both sides, right? In your non-football life as well as your football life is what you're telling me. How rewarding is that for you?
It is.
And have you always been that way?
I have to certain, capacities, throughout different points of my life, but I've always been, just somebody that just wanted to help, and just be a helping hand to whoever may need it. That just might be listening to somebody, and, not everybody needs advice, but some people just want you to listen to them.
Yeah.
So, just being a helping hand and just being there for people, it's been a big thing in my life.
I don't know all the deep dive in it, and we don't have time to delve into it maybe for another day, but just on the periphery, your mom sacrificed a lot for your own success, right? Is that always present in your mind?
Most definitely. Sometimes I think about it because my brother just had a kid, and I'm seeing how hard it is to raise one kid, and she was a single mom raising two of us at the same time. So
she was outnumbered.
Yeah, seriously. And she's done a lot, man. And just her story, her journey, and just where she's gone throughout her life. She's definitely sacrificed a lot for us. So I just try to, honor that. And she's the person who really taught me how to work. Like, just I seen her.
And how?
So I seen her like she would leave before we got up, and then she would get home when we're asleep in bed, and then just do it over and over again just to provide for us. So just watching that example over and over again, and then her explaining like kind of the situation that we're in, like I just appreciated it more and more as I got older, and just seeing like how much she worked for us. So definitely she's my rock, and like she taught me how to sacrifice things like in order to get what you want and do the things that you need to do.
Have there been times in conversation with her, in those quiet moments, those intimate moments with your mom, now that you've had an extended NFL career and still scratching the surface of what's coming, did you guys pinch yourselves like, oh, how the heck did this happen?
Yeah, definitely. It's just crazy to reflect on, but like we've definitely had moments where like just looking at where we came from, and to see where we are right now, and we still have so much more to do, but just extremely grateful, and put a lot of faith in God, and just trust Him, and then just do our part as well.
You're the man they call OZ. I don't know. They call you Wizard too.
Don't call me that.
I'm not. I'm reading. People are suggesting maybe he's the Wizard of OZ, but I like OZ.
OZ's cool.
OZ's cool.
People
better than the word Ozzy.
Yeah,
OZ.
People tried to make Wizard stick, and let's let that slide a little bit.
How pivotal is this season for you? Because you got an offense that's just going to be scratching the surface of its potential, and you're a big part of it.
I feel like it's very big, not only just for me, but everybody.
Yeah.
I feel like we have the pieces to do a lot of special things, but we have to put it together. And, that's why training camp has been the way it's been. It's been hard. So we've needed these reps. We've needed this tension, time under tension, so that we can mold ourselves into being as great as we want to be.
From the preps to the pros, you and I touched on this when you first arrived in free agency, but DeAndre Swift and you high school teammates,
Yep.
I'm sure you've shared some looks in the hallway or in the locker room about this, and man, we're here together now. Let's do some damage.
Most definitely, and we're on a mission, and we know what it takes. We know what it should look like. So, it's just about being consistent day in, day out with the preparation, and bringing people along with us.
I can't leave you without talking about Antoine Randall like, now that you've had a chance to work with him.
Yeah.
What's he brought to the table for Olamide Zaccheaus?
Man, L he brings a lot of energy, man. Like every day, just great energy. Being a player's coach, like somebody that's played in the league as well, having his perspective and his wisdom, and just he's great. Like I just can't speak enough how He does everything he needs to do as a coach, and then there to support you as a player and off the field as well. Like it's great to have him in our corner, not only as a receiver coach, but for this team though too. He's done a lot. He's going to do a lot of great things for us for sure.
Thank you.
Most definitely.
Appreciate it.
When we return, I'll rejoin Tom Thayer. We'll discuss where the Bears are headed with Gervon Dexter, senior, the defensive lineman. We'll talk about his learning development under this new coaching staff of the Chicago Bears on Bears Weekly on ESPN 1000 and the Bears Radio Network.
Welcome back to Bears Weekly on the Bears Radio Network. Here's your host, the voice of the Bears, Jeff Joniak.
This segment of Bears Weekly brought to you by Athletico Physical Therapy. Visit athletico.com to request an in-clinic or virtual appointment and start feeling better tomorrow. With Tom Thayer, Jeff Joniak. Tom, before we move into Gervon Dexter, I want to talk about Olamide Zaccheaus because his steady presence and what he's all about is very important for a young quarterback, in my opinion. He had a chance to work with Jaden Daniels in his rookie season, a young quarterback who happened to play 6 years of college football, so had a lot more starts. Maybe was really ready for the NFL game, even as a rookie. But what he does and what he does with the ball in his hands after the catch and his physicality for just being a 5'8" football player is going to be very valuable to that entire receiving core and the Bears offense in general.
Probably one of the most times I've ever been jealous of not being able to interview the player like you did, because after listening to him, he's mature beyond his years. His size, that height chart doesn't matter to him. What he's been able to contribute to the development of this offense, the wide receiver position, and possibly even the return game, goes above and beyond the call of duty. I love the way this guy talks and the influences in his life and why he's a pro. It's not hard to tell why. And I think Olamide Zaccheaus is going to be a guy that's going to come onto this football team, and the Chicago Bears fans are going to know a lot more about him after the season than they did before he ever got here. And I've grown real appreciation for his work ethic and what he did to contribute to the success of this offense over time. I think Ben Johnson has the same appreciation for him, but he's also going to benefit the DJ Moore and Rome Odunze and the rest of the receivers on this football team, because Olamide Zaccheaus can do everything that's asked of him, including the no block, no rock mentality of Ben.
I think he's here for a big part of the culture also in that locker room because of everything you just touched on. Last year, by the way, had a career-high catch rate of 70.3%. If you're in the 60s, that's great. 70s, it's even better. And he was number 2 in the NFC in punt return average last year. 45 catches, 506 yards, 3 touchdowns, again, with Washington and that young quarterback, Jaden Daniels. Week 16 last year against the Eagles, 5 catches, 70 yards, 2 touchdowns, in a 36-33 win. The following week, beat the Falcons, 8 catches, 85 yards, and a touchdown. I'm not saying he's going to get those numbers every week with the Bears, because I think Ben is going to pick his spots. One week it's going to be somebody that, we've heard this before. Believe me, we've heard this before, but I put much respect on Ben Johnson actually doing that. Whatever wins the matchups, that's where the ball's going.
Yeah, I agree. You know, that's why Ben Johnson is not committed to the game plan of the Minnesota Vikings. It's still that we're working on the Chicago Bears. And then when we start working on the Minnesota Vikings, we're going to see who fits the best where. Down and distance, different formations. And I don't think he's ever going to be ignored. And I think he really gives Ben Johnson an exciting option outside of DJ and Rome and the rest of the receivers to be considered a go-to guy as much as anybody. And then also talking about the relationship he's been able to develop with Caleb. I think it's super important that a new guy comes in here and develops that receiver quarterback timing relationship and what he can do for this team.
All right, let's do some work on the roster real quick. The Bears claimed DeMarco Jackson, a 5th rounder out of New Orleans, 3 years with Dennis Allen. Tom, this sounds like a special teams role, but also helping out defensively with Amon Ogbongbemiga out. Jalen Jones back with the Bears. He did some good things for the Bears over 3 years, released by Arizona this week. 41 games for the Bears. And that is important with what's going on with special teams, those 2 players, those 2 additions.
Right. It's such a volatile position that they change week in and week out. You have guys that are injured, elevated to the active roster, or guys that aren't living up to what their requirements are on special teams. So you have a couple guys that that are bona fide special team aces at this point, and they can come in and on that Monday night game against the Minnesota Vikings, they'll have an active roster spot, and they'll be ready to go.
All right, some number changes. I don't know if you're aware, but Jade Walker moves from 20 to 10.
Yep.
And you predicted Luther Burden was not going to stay at 87, so he is now number 13. And
that surprises me.
Why?
Because I'm a superstitious guy, and 13 has always been a superstitious number. But I don't care as long as he likes that number, and that's the number that he wants to grow into his career with. More power to him.
And Nahshon Wright from 25 to 26, 1 spot difference there. But now I want us to talk about defense and a player that is extremely important to the future of this franchise. That's Gervon Dexter Sr. His thoughts on how camp went for him. He learned a lot.
How aggressive it's going to be. You're going to strike blocks and make plays up front and start up front. That's what I know now.
As an extension of that, as a coach, what does DA do to get your guys' attention? What is it that you guys believe in?
He practices what he preaches. You know what I mean? He's out there. He's aggressive. He has the energy, and that's the way he coaches us up in the meeting room, outside. So you pretty much have no choice but to match his energy.
You're pretty structured, right, in terms of the
Very
way.
structured, yeah.
Gervon, how would you summarize the last 8 months for you since last season, and like how much better do you feel like you are as a player now compared to that?
I think I'm a lot better. I think I'm obviously older in terms of years, but I think I'm more mature as far as knowing, what's coming to me, or knowing, backfield sets and all of that stuff. And I think my coach JG has done a great job at helping me get there in our short time together so far. So it's been cool.
Is there like a more specific part that you feel like you really honed in on that you were able to then show in camp? Like, hey, that worked this offseason?
I think one thing I would highlight, it's a funny story. My coach, like I say, Coach JG, he asked me one time when we first got here, like, G, what you looking at when you getting off the ball, or what you looking at when you ready to strike? And I'm looking at the hips or the ankles of the offensive lineman. He looked at me funny. It was like, just key to the tip of the pad, and that's been more than helped me so far. So it's been perfect.
He was saying that over the course of this offseason that like you would text him and like say like, what should I do better? Like, what has that dynamic been like? And like, what was he telling you to work on as you got to camp and then once you got into the thick of things?
Yeah, I think that was one of the things. I think he noticed. You talking about JG, right? Yeah. He noticed that, like, obviously my eyes weren't in the right place, and I think one of the things that he told me is like the start of the play. So like that's the stance. Getting down and getting ready to play is probably the biggest thing. So if you don't have a good stance, you probably won't have a good get off, and 9 times out of 10 you won't have a good play. So like just the start of the play, he's helped me fix the start, and that's been pretty good for me.
You think most things are just pretty much universal in what you teach linemen, offense or defense, footwork, how you get off, how you attack with your hands, winning with your hands. But you keep finding out from players they are taught differently over the course of their football lives. And Gervon Dexter learning some things under this staff that he claims he didn't have before, and then making him a more dangerous player and hopefully a better player here in 2025.
One thing about the modern-day player, I couldn't even imagine texting Dick Stanfeld in the offseason and what he wants me to work on, how I can be a better offensive lineman. And Gervon Dexter talks about text messaging with his position coach and what he needs to see. What does his initial what does he need to look at initially as a defensive lineman? And when you get those types of, suggestions or encouragement of improvement, it really does a lot for a player, and encourages them to go out there and work on exactly what that coach is going to start preaching to them 2 or 3 months ahead of time. But listen, Gervon Dexter has the template, he has the frame, he has the size, and he's now going to be blessed with playing next to Grady Jarrett and Montez Sweat in Odio. Every one of these guys are going to accelerate his career. So, Gervon Dexter Sr., you are sitting on the cusp of an opportunity of a lifetime to be a future part of this organization, that greatness is coming to you. And, he's got to realize that, and he's got to grow on every opportunity he's given.
Yep, he has had some strong starts to seasons. Hopefully that continues here. Jeremy Garrett is the guy he's talking about, JG. Coach Garrett is an NFL veteran coach. Jacksonville last year, also coached at one time in Cleveland, was the coach at Auburn as well, so over 15 years of experience. And anytime you're coaching Myles Garrett, I don't know how much coaching he needs, but maybe picked up some things that any of these defensive linemen can learn.
Every great defensive lineman needs a little hint or a little of adjustment or something that this coach is seeing what the offensive lineman is trying to do to them. And, Gervon Dexter Sr. is no different. And like I said, he's going to be able to grow from a guy like Grady Jarrett, but he also has a unique style and ability to grow from his own size and structure.
All right, when we come back, we're going to talk to Tom about a special event he was a part of last weekend here in the Chicago area. It's all coming up next here on Bears Weekly on ESPN 1000 and the Bears Radio Network.
Welcome back to Bears Weekly on the Bears Radio Network. Here's your host, the voice of the Bears, Jeff Joniak.
This segment of Bears Weekly is brought to you by IGS Energy. Jeff Joniak, Tom Thayer, jam-packed show, but I got to save a segment here to talk about something cool. So I've always wanted to get the 5 starting offensive linemen, or heck, the entire offensive line who participated on the 85 Bears. With the 40th anniversary of the Bears Super Bowl championship, alumni weekend, there'll be a big event on the Sunday night before the Monday night matchup at Soldier Field. The offensive line came together, brainchild of team president and CEO Kevin Warren, to get some of the 85 Bears offensive linemen together with the current Bears offensive linemen. You were one of the guests up in Lake Forest at a dinner and a conversation with these guys. It was a little bit of show and tell, I'd imagine.
All right, so from the 85 team, it was me, 7-time consecutive Pro Bowler Jay Hilgenberg, Hall of Famer Jimbo Covert, and Kurt Becker, starting offensive guard out of the University of Michigan. And we had a chance as 60-year-old men to go out there and have a conversation about an occupation. It's not necessarily us trying to give anybody life lessons. It's just talking about our career and their career, our training camp regime against their training camp regime. And there was no questions that were out of line. It was just a great opportunity that the program started with Kevin Warren and George being there. You know, they kind of just interjected an immediate introduction, and then they left, and then it was just us offensive linemen being able to having a chance to talk and discuss our careers and our lives and just the fun of being an offensive lineman. And we had a chance to go back and revert to we are 20-something, and they had a chance to revert to their modern-day experiences. We were so appreciative of the Bears leadership thinking outside the box and allowing us to meet the modern-day offensive linemen and kind of telling them a little bit about our background so they understood the history and the importance of the offensive line in the history of the Chicago Bears.
So what questions were asked?
You know, they asked everything about training camp and doubles of Arte. Maybe it was Joe Thuney. He asked, would you guys like to go through our training camp instead of what you guys go through? And all 4 of us at one time, we laughed and giggled because we talked about the training camp in 1985. We went through 22 straight days of doubles with conditioning, weightlifting, and meetings after every practice. And there is no vindictive thinking about it. It's all like, listen, man, you guys are awesome. You guys, the salary compensation is different, but we admire you guys because we know as offensive linemen what you're going through. And Jay told those guys that we always used to get the speech that if you lose, we're all going to get the blame. If you win, you're not going to get any credit. And they all kind of agreed to a man that's the similar type of offensive line existence of today. And whether it's Jay Hilgenberg sitting next to Theo Benedette, me sitting next to Dahlman, Becker sitting next to Thuney, Jimbo sitting next to Braxton Jones, and other guys were there. Darnell and the whole crew were there. Jeff, I can't tell you how excited that we were as old men to sit next to the new guard of offensive linemen. And hopefully maybe one thing we said that these guys can attach it to their career. We talked about Clyde Emmerich. We talked about the importance of the weight room. We talked about everything that surrounded our life that is similar to the surroundings of their life.
Yeah, what'd you learn?
We learned that these guys are a committed group of offensive linemen. We learned that whether you're Dahlman that's coming from Atlanta or you're Joe Thuney that's coming from Kansas City or the continuous development of Darnell Wright or the rehabilitation, the process of Braxton Jones, that every one of these guys are 100% all in, that they feel that they're part of an incredible coaching staff that's developing these guys on an everyday basis. They don't take a day off. And I think that's that's kind of the ways of an offensive lineman. There is no day off, and it's only about your performance in the next day. And so having a chance to sit side by side with these guys and everything wiped away. It's just ex-offensive lineman of the Bears sitting with the modern-day offensive lineman of the Bears, and we had an incredible appreciation for it. And again, we just hope that we could touch them and influence them in the history of the Bears. And one small thing is I brought my jersey with me that you've seen many a times.
The onesie.
And I showed him that it's a onesie, and I asked him if anybody would be willing to wear it. And to a man, nobody would.
Yeah.
But it's just kind of showing history to the modern-day guys.
Yeah, and enjoying a good meal as well. And I think it was a cool idea. I still want to tell that story, though, one day. Don't know if it'll ever happen, but it would be a cool storyline because a lot of the attention obviously put on a really amazing defense and the exciting play of Walter Payton and Jim McMahon and Willie Galton, those guys. But the blocks of granite up front, the best ever, did a lot of damage as well. Your story still needs to be told.
It does need to be told, and I don't know if that story would have the same effect or the accountability if we didn't have a guy like Ditka and Dick Stanfeld that was pushing us along the way. And I would rather see this offensive line of this year retell the story of the Super Bowl.
All right, we'll have one more segment. Maybe some Tom's thoughts will sneak in here before we wrap things up. This is Bears Weekly on ESPN 1000 of the Bears Radio Network.
This is Bears Weekly with the voice of the Bears for 24 years, Jeff Joniak on the Bears Radio Network.
This segment of Bears Weekly brought to you by Athletico Physical Therapy. Visit athletico.com to request an in-clinic or a virtual appointment and start feeling better tomorrow. Remaining moments with Super Bowl winning Bears guard Tom Thayer. All right, couple topics, Tom's thoughts. Let's start with the quarterback position and Caleb Williams. Tommy, what do you got?
It's going to be an amazing opportunity for Caleb to become the quarterback that he was picked to be. Number one in the draft, and now he's got certainty at the head coaching position. A mind that is possibly as clever as any offensive mind in the NFL. And if Caleb capitalizes on his opportunity with the supporting cast he has around him, he's going to be a guy that's going to be high profile immediately. And there's no bigger start than the start of the NFL season. So I think that we're going to have an appreciation of all the information that Caleb has digested during this preseason, and then when we start seeing it implemented in week-to-week game plans, that's when we're going to grow an appreciation for Caleb in this offense.
What a first test, too, against a Brian Flores-led defense with his pressure packages. It'll be interesting to watch. And pressure packages of his own against a rookie quarterback, Dennis Allen, to face J.J. McCarthy, and what looks to be a very, very good offense of the Minnesota Vikings.
Right. For now, it's our opportunity to see what this defense is really capable of. We've saw them be aggressive in every training camp practice, be aggressive against the Miami Dolphins and the Buffalo Bills. And then we heard Kevin Byard at the podium talk about safety blitzes. And I think that when you throw everything together, and now you allow Dennis Allen be able to game plan against a first-time starting rookie quarterback. Complement of the crowd noise at Soldier Field week one. I do think that we're going to see guys like Grady, guys like Montez Sweat, the rest of the guys that they can have an attack ability, TJ Edwards, so on and so forth. We're going to see a Chicago Bears defense that we have known for an attacking style of defense through Dennis and the Bears, and we're going to see it all come together.
I'm hoping that, as you touched on the defense of Dennis Allen, that it's a defense that gets to play on the lead a little bit more, because that has not been at the luxury of the Bears defense in the recent past here, and playing on the lead with the offense scoring points would make a big difference.
Right. That's what Ben's talked about. He was not happy with the first couple drive performance of the Bears in the last preseason game. He wants to see a fast start. He wants to see a point advantage so it allows Dennis Allen to be a little bit more aggressive. And that's what I had. My opportunity and first opportunity to play for the Bears was in Minnesota on I think it was Thursday night edition of Monday Night Football, where Jim McMahon came into the game and he put a display of heroics on that was very not duplicated very often. So when you have an opportunity for a defense that if you give them a chance to be aggressive, that they can take control of the game. So it's about Ben in the offense being aggressive early, getting points on the board, and letting the Bears defense to be as aggressive as we hope they can be all the rest of the regular season.
Defense then of Brian Flores that has added some Pro Bowlers, veterans, guys that I'm sure are going to be in your game plan to focus on. Tommy, Jonathan Allen for one, Javon Hargrave in free agency, Jonathan Grenard, great season last year, all-pro talent, and Andrew Van Ginkel. Dallas Turner is in his second year, and the safety Harrison's still around, right? He's still around.
Last year, Brian Flores, he blitzed 277 times, number one in the NFL. Caleb Williams was blitzed 174 times, number two in the NFL. So I think we're going to see, does Brian Flores believe that he can rely on his defensive line to get pressure on the quarterback, or does he think that he still has to bring blitzers? And then if Ben Johnson has the perfect plan for these blitzing packages of Brian Flores, we'll see what happens, because he's been in this division. He's familiar with these coaches like to do. And so, it's just going to be an incredible game, the first Monday night game of the NFL season.
Yeah, Ben Johnson's first as an NFL head coach. He's never going to forget it one way or another, that's for sure. And the one thing about the Flores defense, though, high risk, but high reward for an offense that can take advantage of it. And certainly Ben has done that against the Vikings in his time. So thanks for listening, everybody. That's going to do it for us. The executive producer of the Bears Radio Network is Eric Ostrowski. Thanks to Hannah LaMotta in the ESPN studios. Our Bears producers, Dan Briley, Jordan Trudup, and Katie Fox. For Tom Thayer, our guest, Olamide Zaccheaus, and me, Jeff Joniak, this has been Bears Weekly on the new radio home of the Chicago Bears, ESPN Chicago. Have a great day, everybody. Adam Abdallah and Peggy Kaczynski are next.
Thank you for listening to the Chicago Bears Network presentation of Bears Weekly, hosted by the Mayor of Bearsville, Jeff Joniak, and Surfmaster Tom Thayer. Podcasts are available on the Chicago Bears official app, brought to you by Verizon and Apple Podcasts. Bears Weekly has been brought to you by Miller Lite.